Hello class, welcome to another asynchronous day of math instruction. As I had mentioned yesterday, we're going to get started on Module 2, Lesson 3 today. Now, if we think back to Lesson 2, what we did in Lesson 2 was Lesson 2's title, which we had just finished yesterday, was division of a whole number by a fraction. So we took our whole number, our 12 here, and we divided by a half, or 5 divided by 1/4, or 9 divided by a third. If you think back even further to Lesson 1, we actually did division of a fraction by a whole number. So as opposed to what we have over here of like 12 divided by 1/2, back then we were doing things like 1/2 divided by 12. Or 1/4 divided by 5. Things in that vein. But for Lesson 3, if I go up here and I read the title of Lesson 3, instead of a fraction divided by a whole number or a whole number divided by a fraction, this time we're going to be getting into division of a fraction by another fraction. And we're going to be using some models to help us illustrate that. So we're going to pass by our opening exercise for this one. Excuse me. And go directly into example 1. What example 1 is asking us to do is it's asking us to take 8/9 and divide it by 2/9. Well, here's some good news for this one. Both of these are 9ths, so it's actually going to make this a lot easier for us. First thing it says is, well, it wants us to write the expression in unit form. So to write that in unit form, I just need to say 8/9 divided by 2/9. Similar to how if this was 80 divided by 20, I would write it as 8/10 divided by 2/10. And already, by just writing it in this unit form, that's already going to give us a really big hint as to what the answer is going to be. I'm sure some of us are looking at 8/9. It's actually supposed to be an S here. 8/9 divided by 2/9. I'm sure some people are looking at that and they'll say, "Oh, I know the answer. I know the answer already, Mr. Hyzy. You don't need to answer any of this anymore. We've got this." And you're probably right. Probably have the right answer. But we're going to go on and we're going to draw a model to help solve this. So I'm going to draw a long model that's going to represent my one whole. My entire length here is going to represent one whole. And what do I need to split my whole into? I need to split my whole into 9ths. So I'm going to do just that. That should be 9 pieces right there. Let me make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's 9 pieces right there. And, well, how many of those 9 pieces am I worried about to start? I'm only worried about 8 of them. I'm worried about 8/9. So I'm going to, let's make that as thick as it can go so I can shade these in easier. 1/9. 2/9. 3/9. 4/9. 5/9. 6/9. 7/9. 8/9. So I've split it into 8 whole 9ths. 8 of them. Now, well, what's the question asking us to do? It's asking us, well, 8/9 divided by 2/9. So that means I'm going to take my 8/9, and what I want to do is I want to break them up into groups that are a size 2/9. So I'm going to break them off into groups, and each group is going to be of size 2/9. So that's a group with size 2/9. I'm going to make this a little thicker. This right here is a group with size 2/9. This right here is a group of size 2/9. And lastly, this right here is a group of size 2/9. So how many total groups do I have of size 2/9? I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So 8/9 divided by 2/9 is going to give me 4. Before we continue on and head to example 2, I want us to remember something that we did yesterday. What we did yesterday is we discussed how when I'm dividing something by a fraction, what I need to do is I need to flip the second fraction over and change it to multiplication. Let's see if that's going to work in this case. I have a cat yelling in the corner. But mostly, I have 8/9 divided by 2/9 but I don't want to deal with division of fractions, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change this to 8/9, change it to multiplication, and flip my second fraction. So 8/9 times 9 halves. Now there's actually two ways that we can go about this. We could do the full way, or we can do a little bit of a shortcut. We'll do the full way first, and then I'll show off the shortcut as well, just to make sure that just in case the shortcut isn't there, we know what to do. So up first, I'm going to take by 8 and I'm going to multiply it by 9, which is going to give me 72. And I'm going to take my 9 and I'm going to multiply it by 2. That's going to give me 18. And what do I get if I divide 72 by 18? Well, it will please you to note that I will get an answer of 4. So, good news. It works. At least it worked on this one. We're going to test it with the other ones to make sure that it still works. But for now, looks like it still works, which is great for us. I did say, however, that there was a little tiny bit of a shortcut. Now, this shortcut's only going to work if when we're dividing, we start out with our numbers having the same denominator. Because when we flip them over, I will, as before, I'll have 8/9 times 9 halves. Now, the little tiny shortcut is going to be, well, I'm multiplying by 9 and I'm going to be, in the end, dividing by 9. So something that I can actually do is, since I have a 9 down here in my denominator and a 9 up here in my numerator, I can actually just cross these two out and say that they cancel each other out. And I can end up with, over here, 8 divided by 2. Which, as we know, and we probably know a little easier than 72 divided by 18, 8 divided by 2 is also going to give us that 4 as an answer. So, with that, looks like it works. It looks like our method of flipping the second fraction works, but let's check. We're going to check with example number 2. With example number 2, and I'm actually going to draw models for all of these. Example 1, 2, and 3. So for example 2, we have 9/12 divided by 3/12. This is good. 9/12 divided by 3/12. Those are both 12ths. That's going to be pretty easy for us. So let's take this and we're going to draw our model. If I want to, I can write this out in unit form again, just like before. It's going to be 9 twelfths. Never remember how to spell twelfths. It's a hard word. It has a ELFTH. It's a hard word for me. So 9 twelfths divided by 3 twelfths. And again, you might look at this and think, well, I already know the answer. This is simple. This is easy. I don't need you to tell me how to answer this question. I can do this one on my own. You might be right. Probably right. Now that we've written it in unit form, you can actually probably just look at that and think, okay, I know the answer. I've got it. Problem is that that's only going to help you if our denominator is going to be exactly the same. And all three of our examples here are going to have the denominator be the exact same. And basically everything that we're going to be working on today is actually going to have the same denominator. In the future, however, might not be the case. So for today, it's going to work. But for the future, it might not. So you've got your answer in your head. Keep that in your head. We're going to prove that that answer is the right answer. So I'm going to take and draw a log model. And how many pieces am I going to have to break this into? I'm going to have to break it into 12 separate pieces. Break it up into 12 separate pieces. And that should be 12 pieces. Let me just count just to make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Perfect. Split this into 12 separate pieces. And once again, I need to think about, well, how many pieces am I worrying about? How many pieces do I have to worry about on this one? Well, I have to worry about 9 because my first number is going to be 9 twelfths. So once again, I'm going to up the thickness of this so that it's easier for me to shade them in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. God, it keeps covering that line and I don't want it to. But that's my fault. It's fine though. So now I've shaded in all 9 twelfths that I'm worrying about. Now, 9 twelfths divided by 3 twelfths, similar to example 1 that we just did, it's asking me to take my 9 twelfths and I'm going to split it up. I'm going to split it up into groups of 3 twelfths. So right here, that's a group of 3 twelfths. That right there, that's a group of 3 twelfths, and that right there, that's a group of 3 twelfths. Simple. So what's my answer to this? Well, my answer to this is going to be 3. As I'm sure a lot of us guessed, the answer to this is going to be 3. Because I took my 9 twelfths divided by 3 twelfths in order to get 3. So here's that little tiny tip again. There's another 2 ways that we can go about this. And that's going to be, well, that's just going to be the one way that we can go about this other than what we've done. And that's to go with flipping over our second fraction. So I have 9 twelfths divided by 3/12 is going to be equal to, well, let's flip this other one. Going to have 9/12. Change it to multiplication. Flip my second one. 12/3. And, well, once again, what I can do is I can just, since I have a 12 in the denominator and my numerator over there, I can say goodbye to both of them and say that this is going to be 9 divided by 3, which is going to be equal to 3. Now, there might be something that we notice here. There's an entire step that I might just be able to take out. And it's this whole middle step here. Because we know that since our denominators are going to be the same, we can actually completely skip that step, at least for what we're doing today. Since for what we're doing today, everything is going to have the same denominator. So we can completely skip this step. And when we go on to example 3, I think we're going to skip that step. For example 3, we have 7/9 divided by 3/9. So once again, I'm going to take this. I'm going to say 7/9 divided by 3/9. Now you might look at this and you might say, okay, well, I kind of understand what I need to do. But the answer isn't as obvious as these first two ones. And you'd be right. But you're probably also thinking on the right track, which is what we want to do. So once again, I'm going to draw my model. I have 7/9 divided by 3/9. So the main thing I need to worry about is taking my model and splitting it into 9s. So I've got my model here, and I'm going to break it into 9 pieces. Okay, that should be 9. Let me make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Perfect. 9 pieces. And now, how many pieces am I worried about out of these 9? I'm worried about 7/9. So I'm going to go 1, 2. I know it looks like I'm drawing 8s in them. It's just effective for shading. 3. 4, 5, 6, and 7. There we go. I'm worried about these 7. I'm worried about those 7 and only those 7. Now, what size of group am I going to be breaking these into? Well, it says right there, I'm going to be breaking these into groups of 3/9. So, let's look here. Well, I've got my first group right here. That group is going to be 3/9 big. This second group over here, also going to be 3/9 big. And this third group here, wait a minute. This second group right here, I don't have enough. I don't have enough for another group of 3/9. I don't have enough. I'm supposed to have 3/9. I only have 1. I only have 1 out of 3/9. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. 1 out of 3. 1 out of 3. If we were in class right now, I would honestly just repeat 1 out of 3 till somebody picked up the meaning of this. But obviously, I would be talking to myself forever since this is a video. 1 out of 3, if I were to write this out in words, one out of 3, that's what we call, and you should know this, a fraction. The out of is something that denotes that we're going to have a fraction. We have 1 out of 3. 1/3. I have 1/3 of what I need for this third group. So I have 1 group, 2 groups, and then a third. So in total, I have 2 1/3 groups that I'm able to make out of these 7/9. I have 2 1/3 groups that I can make out of these 7/9. Well, we got our answer. Our answer is 2 1/3. Let's go over here and let's do what we had done before. I'm going to swap back to blue for this. If I take my 7/9 divided by my 3/9, as we mentioned, we're just going to skip this center step and completely change it to just being 7 out of 3, 7/3. Because this 3 is going to go into the denominator and then my 9s are going to cancel out. 7 over 3 is basically just like saying 7 divided by 3. Just like how I'm assuming, for example, 2, you saw, 9/12 divided by 3/12, that's just 9 divided by 3. And 8/9 divided by 2/9, that's just 8 divided by 2. So we need to look at 7/3. Well, 7/3, I take away 3. Okay, so I've got 7/3. If I take away 3, then that's going to be 1 4/3. Okay. I can still take another 1 out of here, so that's going to give me 2 1/3. And would you look at that? 2 1/3, 2 1/3. So it still works. Personally, for these, till you get the handle of it, I still recommend drawing the model. It's always going to help. But we've proven that when I have 2 fractions that have the same denominator, when I have 2 fractions being divided by each other and they have the same denominator, that's the same as just dividing the numerator of my first one by the numerator of my second one. 7/9 divided by 3/9 is giving me the exact same answer as 7 divided by 3. I could just completely ignore my denominators in this case. Obviously, as we go on and we start dealing with fractions that don't have the same denominator, this rule might not work. But at least so long as we have denominators that are the exact same, if the denominators are the same, it's just dividing our numerators. That's all it is. So, with what we've talked about, I want you guys to look at examples 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. It says to draw a model. I want you to draw a model for at least 3 out of 6. For at least 3 out of the 6 of these exercises, I want you to draw a model. You don't need to draw a model for every single one because at that point it might just get a little bit tedious. But for at least 3 of those exercises, I want you to draw a model. With that, that's really it. That's really all that I have for you. Hopefully that we really understand this. If we're having any difficulties, let me know. Send me a message on Schoology. We can get on teams together and we can sort of work through any problems if you're really struggling. If you're not, then I hope that you have yourselves a good day. Hope that you have yourselves a great weekend, and I will see you all on Monday. Farewell. Adios.